Hello, this is Mark Silverman, managing member and founder of Silverman & Associates, and I'm also a certified financial planner professional. I want to welcome you to the Saving with Silverman podcast. I'm glad you're here. Each week, we'll discuss different financial planning topics because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Welcome to Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz, along with Mark Silverman, the star of the show. He is certified financial planner professional, the founder and the managing member of Silverman & Associates in Tucson. And Mark, as always, it is good to be back with you on the radio.
Happy to be back talking to you, and hopefully we have a great show coming up.
We've got a lot of interesting things to talk about, but first I wanted to put the phone number out there so everybody can have it, and go ahead and write it down. Good idea to do that. 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601. You can call that number, or you can send a text to that number if that's more convenient for you. 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. Mark, we talk about retirement all the time and ways to get ready for retirement, but there are lots of easy ways to absolutely ruin your retirement. And a lot of people out there in the audience have experienced some of these scenarios. Doing proper planning for retirement often requires changing your mindset about some things. And I thought maybe you could explain why these behaviors that I'm going to point out here can be a quick way to just screw up your retirement altogether. Number one, a lot of people treat retirement as the destination rather than the beginning of another phase of their lives. And that's a real mistake, isn't it?
That's correct, Ron. I mean, it's a new chapter of your life, as you mentioned. You're getting to a point where you're going to, and retirement means different things to different people. Some people, retirement means you're done working and you may be just traveling or whatever you want to do in retirement. For other people, maybe you're still working. Maybe you're just working not as much or doing something entirely different. So again, it could be different things, but I think the important thing is to understand that for a lot of people, if you're retiring in your early 60s per se, you might have as many years in retirement as you had in your working career. If you're living into, let's say, your mid 90s, which in our planning process, we're putting a lot of people into their mid 90s and in some cases 100 and even plus. We just had one recently where they thought they were going to live to 110 and we put that in there. So, it really just depends on what you want to do in retirement, but you need to understand that you got to put, and I've said this before, we can put a plan together for your money, but you need to put a plan together for your time and understand when that day comes, what you're going to do in retirement. I mean, what kind of things are you going to do so we can associate, goals and objectives and put costs to these things so we can really plan it out to make sure that you have the money to do all the things that you want to do and all the things that you're going to have to pay for that you may not want to do, such as, long-term care, healthcare, those sorts of things.
It really is amazing to think about the fact that some people may actually spend more years in retirement than they did in the workplace because people are living so long.
Yep, we've seen it.
Believing that retirement is going to solve all your problems. A lot of people buy into that mindset, and that could be a big mistake as well.
Well, if you're doing a job that you don't enjoy doing, maybe that does solve one problem, but there's always things that come up. There's healthcare issues, there's just life, family issues, there's lots of different things that can come up, and you still have to live your life, even though you're not working anymore and you're considered retired. There's still things that you need to do, and some things you want to do, some things you don't want to do, but that's just life. So it doesn't solve all your problems, but you need to have a well thought out plan.
Okay, assuming that your monthly spending habits in retirement can be easily determined by your spending habits while you're working, those are two different things altogether.
Yeah, and this can vary, and I've said this before as well. They say that in some cases you need 70 to 80% of your working income in retirement. And we've seen that hold true. But in some cases also, we've seen some people who spend just as much in retirement as they do while they were working. And then we've seen a couple cases, not a lot, but a few cases where actually people were spending more in retirement than they were when they were working. And I think the one big caveat is this: it's time. So while you're working, that occupies your time. When you're retired, and let's say you're not working at all, you have a lot more time. And unfortunately, a lot of things you do to occupy your time are going to cost money, whether it's playing golf or traveling or whatever it might be. Those things have a cost associated to it. So we need to understand that And it just depends on what you plan, again, what you're going to be doing in retirement. And everybody's got a different vision, a different goal. People are retiring at different ages, different life expectancies. All these sorts of things come into play. So it's important that we try to understand that so we can look at your particular situation and figure out what's going to be the best strategy.
Most people, while they're working, they have a job working 40 hours or more per week. They do the fun things on the weekend, but after you retire, every day is like the weekend. So, you can end up spending a whole lot of money. Mark Silverman can be reached at 520-333-7601. Call or text 520-333-7601. And a member of Mark's team will get back with you, and you can come in before you know it and have a conversation about the financial physical. That's what Mark offers to everyone. It is 520-333-7601. Call or send a text to that number today. We're talking about easy ways to ruin your retirement, and some people retire and then just stop being active. They sit around and lie around pretty much all day, and that can really get you in some big trouble.
Yeah, that's not a good strategy. What I always encourage our clients to do is stay active. You've got to do something, whether it be exercise, go to the gym, take a walk, play, tennis. If you're playing golf, hopefully you're walking the course, pickleball, whatever it is that you want to do, you've got to stay active. Because if you let your body go, your mind's going to probably go soon thereafter. And so you've got to stay active in whatever you're doing. And that's important for your own well-being and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. And the last thing on my list here, we're talking about things that you can do to really ruin your retirement. Investing like you're 35 years old, even if you're 65 years old, different times call for different strategies. Different ages certainly means that you have different amounts of risk and that sort of thing.
Yeah, investing like you're 35 when you're 65 is a big problem. And we've seen this happen. Actually, we just had a case recently where a gentleman came in and he basically had invested, never changed his portfolio, never rebalanced it. It was his 401k. And he was just getting ready to retire. And we were looking at it and his risk was way off. The good news is, obviously with the markets the way that they've been, we're in the second longest bull market we've been in. He's actually fared well for being more aggressive than he should have been. But, generally speaking, what we see is people are more aggressive when they're younger. And as they get older and closer to retirement, they tend to become more conservative. And then once they're in retirement, they tend to become even more conservative. So your portfolio needs to be reallocated to reflect your current risk tolerance, your comfort level, what your downside levels are, and then in relation to where your financial goals are. So those need to be modified. Markets are going to do what they're going to do, but your risk should always be monitored to reflect where you are in relation to retirement or in retirement, et cetera. And so, you can't invest like you said, when you're 35, when you're 65. You've got to reflect those changes and make those changes to your portfolio.
We've been talking about easy ways to ruin your retirement and some other good topics of conversation coming up here. But for folks listening on the radio to this conversation today who will go ahead and get motivated and make that phone call to get in touch with your office, Mark, what do you have to offer those people?
Sure. And, it's another month has gone by now. We're in February. This month kind of flew by. So, next thing you know, it'll be the end of the year. So whether you're a first-time listener to the show or you've heard me for a long time, if anything I've said makes sense or resonates with you, this is now your chance to come in and have a conversation with me. I don't pawn you off on somebody else, which is done here in my office to go through this process like Ron mentioned, and we call it the financial physical. I can assure you, I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. This is far different than any of the other financial shows that are on this station. Rather, we're going to discuss your values and goals in a way, honestly, you probably never have. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who's actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. And as part of the financial physical, we will discuss your cash reserves, debt if you have any, insurance, all types, and how to best allocate your assets. And we'll even benchmark where you are now financially compared to where you want to be, so you have an even better perspective of what's required to achieve your goals for the reasons that are important to you. This will become the foundation for developing a plan that gives you the highest probability of making that happen. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to me with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. We try our best to help everyone. However, our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting for the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601 is your number to call or text. That'll put you in touch with Silverman and Associates. 520-333-7601. Call or text to that number right now. And don't even wait until the end of the program today. You can leave your contact information, and a member of Mark's team will get back with you. And as Mark has said so many times, he's not going to pawn you off on somebody else either. You will actually come in and have a conversation with Mark Silverman. 520-333-7601 is your number to call or text to make that happen. You're listening to Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman, certified financial planner professional, the founder and the managing member of Silverman and Associates. My name is Ron Stutz, and we'll have more coming up on today's show after this quick timeout.
Mark Silverman is a Tucson native, and his firm is right here in town. That means he's always accessible to you. Start your relationship with Mark and his team today. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman. Ron Stutz here along with Mark Silverman, certified financial planner professional at Silverman and Associates. We appreciate your listening to the show today. If you're a regular listener, you probably already have this number ingrained, but if you're a new listener to the program, let me give it to you now, 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. Call or text to that number, and before long, you'll be sitting face-to-face with Mark Silverman and having a conversation about your individual situation. There's no one-size-fits-all. Everybody's situation is unique. Longevity risk. Good topic of conversation, don't you think, Mark?
It is. It's something that comes up a lot, so I think it's important to discuss it.
We are living longer these days. One thing that I think I can say with complete certainty, the death rate for human beings is still hovering right around 100%.
Last time I checked.
Pretty sure thing that nobody's going to get out of this alive. Lifespans are continuing to increase. Before we talk about the risk of living a long time, tell us, how old is your oldest client at Silverman and Associates?
She is, I believe she has a birthday coming up this summer. She's 97. She's going to be 98 this summer.
Goodness. That's great.
So, yeah.
Who is or was the longest living person in your family?
I had a great uncle who just passed away about 2 years ago, and he lived to 96.
My goodness.
So I think that's the oldest one in my family that I know of.
Hope you've got some of those good genes. Who is the oldest person? This can be a client or somebody in your family, or just someone that you know or have known personally. Who is the one who lived the longest?
A childhood friend of mine's grandmother, I think she lived to 101.
Wow.
That's probably the oldest person that I've known.
Some companies are investing millions of dollars into the concept of significantly increasing the human lifespan. So longevity is clearly a coveted thing. You know, a lot of people want to live longer. So why can living a very long time be considered very risky?
Because you want your money to last longer than your life. That's the biggest problem that people have. Because keep in mind, when this happens, if you run out of money before you run out of life, it's in a lot of cases, you can't just go back to work. Maybe you can lean on your kids or grandkids, or at that point, probably great-grandkids. But most people want to be financially independent. So you want to make sure that you have enough money to cover, the healthcare cost and things that you're going to be spending money on, so you're not a burden to your family. And so, living longer is great, but you got to make sure that you've planned properly and had enough money to get you through, your life expectancy.
I know that you work with your clients all the time, making sure they don't run out of money and don't have to stress out about that all the time. But how effectively has the average person out there addressed the financial challenges that can go along with longevity?
I don't think they've addressed it at all, because I can tell you most of the people we meet with have never completed a financial plan. They might have some ideas, or maybe they've been sold some some products, investment products or insurance products, annuities, et cetera, but they really don't have a plan as far as a strategy and looking year by year what's going to happen if they, make it past age 85 or 86 or 90, 95. They have not done any sort of planning, which is a big mistake, because if you haven't done planning, how do you address it? And if your money is supposed to run up by a certain age and you live past that age, what do you do next?
Okay, one more question here in regards to longevity today. Mark, tell us about someone who came to visit you primarily because they were afraid of running out of money. I mean, I guess that's everybody's fear. What did you do to help this particular person? Just single out one if you would.
Sure. I mean, this is what we do with everybody. So I'll just pick one case. We have one now where there's longevity on his side of the family. It's a couple. She doesn't think she's going to have a lot of longevity, so we're running her plan to, I think, age 92 or 93, I forget. But in his case, we're running it to 92, but he feels that there's longevity in his family, and we know that each generation is living longer than the last. So in his case, we ran his plan up to, I think, 97 or 98. And so what we're doing is running those numbers to show that, Social Security will be there. They don't have a pension, but we need to make sure that their investments are going to create enough income to cover all the different things that they're going to be doing. And in your 90s, you're probably not doing a lot of traveling and those sorts of things, but you still have to eat and provide food, water, shelter, but you're going to have a lot of healthcare costs, which you could be paying out of pocket for, especially, if there's long-term care, nursing homes, in-home care, those sorts of things. So we need to make sure that there's going to be enough money to cover those sorts of things. And in their case, we're running a plan and showing and illustrating for them what that's going to look like. So we've addressed those concerns.
If you're listening to the show today and perhaps you have some people in your family who've lived to a very ripe old age, then you may be thinking about it for yourself and what you can do to make sure that you don't run out of money. But the folks who call in, Mark, and arrange a time to come in and sit down face to face, what do you have to offer those callers?
Sure, Ron. Just like you get a second opinion on your health, why wouldn't you get a second opinion on your wealth? So whether you're do-it-yourself or already working with someone, this is now your chance to go through this process that we call the financial physical. Do you know what your investments are truly costing you? If you're still working, are you on track to have the type of retirement you've always envisioned? Or if you're already retired, do you know if you or your spouse are at risk of running out of money while trying to maintain your current lifestyle, just like we spoke about? I can assure you I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. In this initial meeting, we'll address issues of importance to you, provide an overall view of your situation, and give you some general advice on what needs to be completed. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who is actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. And I can tell you, if you're working with somebody at a wirehouse, a brokerage firm, a bank, an insurance, annuity salesperson, they do not have a fiduciary responsibility over all of your money. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as I'm sure you are aware by now, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to me with a CFP, such as myself, can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. Just as you want to reach a healthy life from a physical standpoint, you also want to reach and maintain great financial health. So our financial physical is just what the doctor ordered. We try our best to help everyone, however, our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting to the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601. That is a very important number. Write it down if you haven't done so already. 520-333-7601. You can call or you can shoot a text to that number, and you can get in touch with Mark Silverman at Silverman & Associates. Mark is a certified financial planner professional, the managing member, and in fact the founder of Silverman & Associates in Tucson. He has clients come in from all over the southern Arizona area, and he's helped a lot of individuals and couples and families over a long period of time, and can certainly get to know you and help you as well. But it's up to you to make that phone call, 520-333-7601. Again, call, or if it's easier for you, text. Leave your contact information. A member of the team will get back with you, and you can arrange a time to come in and have that no obligation and no cost conversation. You're listening to Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman at Silverman and Associates, and we'll have more coming up in just a moment.
If you've ever asked yourself what a well-balanced financial portfolio looks like, keep listening to Saving with Silverman, and you'll find out.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman, starring Mark Silverman. Mark's on the radio every week talking about really important things having to do with your retirement and your retirement planning. That is the key word, plan. You need to have a plan for your retirement so you don't run out of money. Mark Silverman can help you put that together. 520-333-7601. Call or text 520-333-7601. Mark, of course, is a fiduciary. That means that he has your best interests at heart with everything he does. It's not about making money for Mark. It's about serving you, the client. 520-333-7601 is your number to call or text to get that no obligation and no cost conversation. Let's talk about IRAs. That seems to always be a popular topic of conversation. 2 different studies within the last year have shown that about 1/3 of people in their 50s and 60s have 100% of their IRAs invested in the stock market and nothing else. What kind of a problem is that, Mark?
Well, it hasn't been a problem yet because of this bull market that we're in. So more risk is good when the market's going up. Everybody's benefited from that. The problem is the people that are going to be retiring soon. So whether you're in your 50s or 60s, whatever it might be, you need to have the risk manageable because you have a certain amount that you're willing to withstand of a loss. So if the markets were to correct, and if you had it all in the market, and let's say the market took a hit of 40%, let's say it's 2008, and you lost 40% of your money, would you stay invested, or could you afford to stay invested, or would you sell and get out at the wrong time? So the question becomes, you should be taking the appropriate amount of risk and adjusting it as you're getting older, as you're getting closer to retirement, and certainly when you're in retirement, you should be managing the risk more appropriately. So it hasn't been a problem as of yet, but nobody can time the market perfectly. But I can tell you we're one day closer each and every day. Again, this is the second longest bull market we've ever been in. I think once we hit sometime in October, this will be the longest bull market we've ever been in, assuming that we're still, going strong.
Mark, I know from hanging out with you so much that part of the problem is that people just don't seem to know what their options are. What else can they invest in within their IRA besides stocks, bonds, and mutual funds?
I mean, there's lots of things you can do in an IRA account. If it's in a self-directed IRA, you can, again, do mutual funds. You could do stocks. You could do bonds. You could do ETFs, exchange-traded funds. You could actually do precious metals, gold. I've seen people do real estate. You got to be careful there, but I've seen people do real estate. Some people buy annuities in them. There's lots of different things. You're not limited on what you can do. The IRA is the type of account. You just want to make sure that it's appropriate and it's suitable for what you're trying to accomplish.
Okay, let's talk more about IRAs here. Do most of these same concepts that you're talking about apply to other tax-deferred accounts like 401ks, 403bs, TSPs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
Sure, like 457s as well. I'd put that in there as well. You are limited on those accounts. You can only invest, typically they're mutual funds in those type of accounts. So you are limited on what your choices are inside an employer-sponsored plan. That's why it always makes sense if you're able to roll it and do an in-service distribution, or roll it out if you leave a job, to roll it into a self-directed IRA is always a better option, because you can, one, you can control the fees a lot better, and two, you can open up your investment options. So some of these, as far as the risk is concerned, if you're in a stock mutual fund inside your TSP, for example, you want to make sure that you're managing the risk appropriately, because you can lose the money just the same as you would in an IRA account.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman, of course, and Mark's on the radio every week here. We're talking about IRAs. Mark, some folks are concerned about the tax implications of moving investments around within their IRA. What exactly are the tax rules here?
Sure. So what we're talking about, and I kind of just alluded to this earlier, is if you're 59 and a half and still working, a lot of companies will allow you to do what's known as an in-service distribution, where you can roll over your vested portion into a self-directed IRA. This is true with the TSP as well, 457s, 403bs, 401ks. In some cases, I know we've done it with some people. Raytheon's a big employer here, Ron. Through Fidelity, we're able to do an in-service distribution prior to age 59 and a half. It really depends on the company and the plan of how the plan document reads. But in some cases, we're able to do it prior to that. But if you do leave a job and you have old 401ks, you can move those monies. And if it's done properly in all these cases that we're talking about, you're rolling it from one to the other. So it's not a taxable event. You don't pay any taxes because you're not taking actual possession of the money. And this is something that we can help with. We do it all the time. And it's something that we recommend. But where to move it to, that's where we would help and make recommendations based on what you're trying to accomplish and help with what those investments should look like.
There are folks out there right now who would love to come in and talk about rolling over accounts and all kinds of things having to do with taxes and everything else. And what do you have to offer those folks who reach out with a phone call that I'm going to give you the number in just a moment here, but what do you have to offer those folks who call your office?
Well, whether you're a first-time listener to the show or you've heard me for a long time, if anything I've said makes sense or resonates with you, this is now your opportunity to come in and have a conversation with me in my office to go through this process that we call the financial physical. I can assure you I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. Rather, we will discuss your values and goals in a way, honestly, you probably never have. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who's actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. And as part of the financial physical, we will discuss your cash reserves, debt if you have any, insurance, all types, and how to best allocate your assets, and we'll even benchmark where you are now financially compared to where you want to be, so you have an even better perspective of what's required to achieve your goals for the reasons that are important to you. This becomes the foundation for developing a plan that gives you the highest probability of making that happen. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson, and the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. We try our best to help everyone, however our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting to the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Why put it off any longer? 520-333-7601 is your number to call to get in touch with Mark Silverman. That is 520-333-7601. And as always, you can text if you would prefer to do that rather than call. 520-333-7601. Mark Silverman is a certified financial planner professional, a fiduciary, which means that what he does is in your best interest. He is the founder and the managing member of Silverman and Associates in Tucson. So why not come on in? First thing you have to do is make that phone call and set aside about an hour of your time to come in for the conversation. No obligation, no cost. 520-333-7601 is your number to call or text and then make that happen. You're listening to Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman, and there's more coming up after this timeout.
You've got questions. We've got answers. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman, your certified financial planner professional, the founder and managing member of Silverman and Associates. His office is in Tucson, and he can provide to you the financial physical. Just like you go to a doctor on a regular basis and have yourself checked out physically, Mark Silverman can check you out fiscally without any obligation at all. You can make this phone call, 520-333-7601. Call or send a text to that number, 520-333-7601. These days, a lot of people prefer to text. Doesn't matter. Just leave your contact information, and a member of Mark's team will get back with you, and you can come in and have a conversation with Mark face-to-face. 520-333-7601. Back to our radio show today. Let's talk about some financial truths. I thought we can discuss some financial truths that we can state with absolute confidence. And one of those is very easy to pick out. Mark, TV can sometimes be your biggest enemy.
I would say that's true, and even radio, even though this is a radio show.
Yeah.
I'd say anybody that's giving you recommendations without knowing your situation, it'd be like a doctor giving you a diagnosis without asking you questions, or giving you a diagnosis over the TV or over radio. They can't know your situation. How can they give you advice? And the same thing is true here. In fact, I've heard, I won't mention the names, but there are a couple radio shows here in town that I've heard where they're actually recommending you buy products without obviously knowing who's listening to the show. And I think that's I know it's a huge mistake. So again, you got to take everything with a grain of salt. We try to give general advice here, but again, you shouldn't apply it to your situation unless we know more. So that's really where you come in, and we can really try to help you. But with that being said, I think, you have to understand the perspective of who's speaking. If somebody's trying to sell you annuities, and if they're only insurance licensed, well, obviously they're going to recommend annuities and nothing else, because that's what they're trying to do. Same thing is true with the broker trying to recommend, talking bad about annuities and trying to recommend, mutual funds or whatever it might be. You need somebody that can not have a bias one way or the other, that works with all different types of investments and really takes the time to ask lots of questions before they make recommendations to you. So you need to understand that, if you're watching TV and you're listening to CNBC or whatever it might be, you need to understand the perspective of what they're trying to do. And a lot of times they're there it's for entertainment purposes, which I wouldn't use for your own portfolio or go off what they're trying to tell you to do.
Well, following along on that same train of thought there, Mark can give you lots of good generic advice here on the radio, but can't really get specific without knowing more about your situation. That is why it's so important to go ahead and make that phone call and come in and have a conversation. Then you can get specific with the information that you provide Mark. He can ask you some very specific questions, and then and only then can you get into a position where you might be able to get some really good specific advice. Another thing that you need to always remember, another financial truth here, is that emotions are rarely your friend when making financial decisions. We talk a lot about how you shouldn't make any important financial decisions when you're in a very emotional state, no matter what the reason for that is.
That's exactly right, Ron. I mean, emotions is one of the best things that an advisor can do is walk you through these and kind of walk you off the ledge, or talk you off the ledge, I guess it would be, to make sure you don't do something that's irrational, that's not going to be in your best interest. And that's one of the biggest problems with people doing it themselves, is not so much that they're picking the wrong investments, but really getting in and out at the wrong times. And so there's been a lot of studies that have done, and one of the studies, I think it's Dalbar, that came out, and they come out every year with a different one. But if you look at what the average return of a stock mutual fund is versus the average return that an investor gets invested in that same mutual fund, it's a significant difference, again, because it's timing. People get in and out and make irrational decisions. We all know the adage, buy low, sell high. But if we look at human nature, the actual opposite is true. So it's important that you work with someone who can help you stay focused on your goals, investing in the right things. But also the key is to maintain and stay in those investments and make changes when you should be making changes, not when you look at the market or you see something on CNBC or you see something, a news alert comes on your phone and you call and get out of an investment when you really shouldn't have, or get in, whatever it might be. So again, you need somebody that's going to keep you emotionally out of making rash decisions. And I think that's one of the biggest things a qualified advisor can do is keep you invested at the right times.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman with the one and only Mark Silverman. 520-333-7601. Your number to call or text, 520-333-7601. We're talking about some absolute truths, things that are financial truths that you can kind of take for granted. And Mark, you know that old song by Blood, Sweat, and Tears, "What goes up must come down, spinning wheel."
I've heard that song.
It's sort of the way it is in the market. I mean, everybody, thinks things are going great right now, and people are always asking you, I'm sure, when is the stock market going to crash? Well, certainly you don't know when, but it's going to go down at some point. The market always moves in cycles, right?
It does. And I've said this before, and I'm not trying to scare anybody, but this is the second longest bull market we've ever been in. And so with that being said, logic will tell you that we are due for something. And I think people really need to understand that. And depending on where you are, if you're already retired, it's something you definitely need to be paying attention to. But if you're even a few years away from retirement, it's something you want to pay attention to. If you're 10, 20, 30 years away from retirement, I wouldn't be as concerned, as long as you stay invested, kind of like what we just mentioned earlier. But again, you got to understand the cycles. And so the market's correct on average about every 5 years. We're going into just over 9 years now. So I think it's important that you understand that. And not to scare anybody, but I can tell you, because I don't have a crystal ball, we are one day closer to correction every day. And so it's important that you understand that.
Mark, I know you meet with new folks all the time who really have no idea what kind of risk is inside their portfolios. And the bottom line is that most people probably aren't as risk tolerant as they think they are.
Well, again, this kind of goes back to my earlier statement, but when we're in this cycle where we're going on, just over 9 years of this bull market, we tend to see people taking a lot more chance. Risk is not a problem for people when the market's going up. Risk is only a problem when the market goes down. And the more risk, the more reward. And so with that being said, greed has kind of really stepped in and everybody wants a piece of the action, if you will. So with that being said, about 80%, we have a process that we have where we can actually understand somebody's risk. We use an online tool to understand risk, and we're very accurate with that. We can actually take somebody's accounts and plug it into the software and show them, here's how you've answered the questions. This is your comfort level, if you will. Here's how much risk you're currently taking with your portfolio. We can actually back test it and show them, if we were to have another financial crisis, which was, late 07 to early 09, here's how much you would stand to lose. Are you okay with that? Yes or no, and really understand that. And so that exercise really helps people. But what we found is about 80% of the time that we've done these, people are taking a lot more risk than they thought they were taking. And so it's important that you understand this, and so you can make a decision whether or not you're allocated properly. Because again, you're not going to be able to time the market. Once we start having a correction, whenever it is, it's going to be too late. So you really need to be proactive in making sure you're taking the right amount of risk at all times.
When you come in to talk with Mark Silverman, the advice that he may end up giving you as he assesses your situation is based on his experience, a vast amount of knowledge that he's been acquired from doing this for a very long time. It is not based on having a crystal ball and knowing exactly what's going to happen and knowing exactly what the magic formula is for you to succeed. When you get down to it, there is no magic bullet.
There is no magic bullet. I mean, you just need somebody that's qualified, like you said, Ron, that's been doing this a long time. In my opinion, you want somebody that's a certified financial planner. It's not required, but it's probably the best designation in what we do as far as somebody that knows about all different types of investment, retirement planning, investment planning, insurance, company benefits, health insurance. I mean, somebody that's very well-rounded with all these different parts in somebody's life and how somebody that can put all the pieces together for you. But again, it's really asking the right questions, having the knowledge to put a plan together rather than just, we call ourselves financial advisors, but in effect, most financial advisors, and this is just my opinion, you may relate or you may not relate, are really financial salespeople. They're not really there to advise. They're there to sell a product. And unfortunately, that doesn't serve people's problems. And when I started in this business over 20 years ago, I can tell you I was trained to be a salesperson. And I don't think that, again, that serves people well. So I really try to focus on advice, accountability, on the planning. And I think that's what people want. And that's what people need. And so, again, there's no silver bullet like you just mentioned, Ron, but there is a process that people need to follow in order to get those sorts of answers that they're looking for. And I feel that most advisors, again, aren't there to solve problems. They're there to sell products, which may or may not help your situation.
If you'd like to get the financial physical that Mark Silverman has to offer, get a reassessment, maybe get a second opinion. Maybe you're working with an advisor already and you just want a second opinion. You can certainly do that. What happens when a person goes ahead and makes that phone call and arranges a time to come in and sit down face to face and have a talk?
Well, Ron, just like I mentioned earlier, just like you get a second opinion on your health, why wouldn't you get a second opinion on your wealth? So again, whether you're do-it-yourself or already working with someone, this is now your chance to go through this process. As Ron mentioned, we call the financial physical. Do you know what your investments are costing you? If you're still working, are you on track to have the type of retirement you've always envisioned? Or if you're already retired, do you know if you or your spouse are at risk of running out of money while trying to maintain your current lifestyle? I can assure you, I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. In this initial meeting, we are going to address issues of importance to you, provide an overall view of your situation, and give you some general advice on what needs to be completed. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So again, whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who is actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware by now, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP, such as myself, can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. Just as you want to reach a healthy life from a physical standpoint, you also want to reach and maintain great financial health. So our financial physical is just what the doctor ordered. We try our best to help everyone. However, our slots fill up quickly, so I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting for the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. Why don't go ahead and call that number right now, or send a text to that number. Leave your contact information, and a member of Mark's team will get back with you first part of the week. You can come in and have a conversation about all these things as it relates to your situation. There is no cookie-cutter solution when it comes to retirement planning. What's right for you may not be right for your brother-in-law or your neighbor or your coworker. You are an individual, and you have an individual situation for sure. 520-333-7601 is your number to call or text to get on the calendar with your certified financial planner professional, the founder and the managing member of Silverman and Associates in Tucson. And again, Mark Silverman is here, and we'll have more coming up on today's show. Saving with Silverman in a moment.
Learn the path to a worry-free retirement. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman. Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman, certified financial planner professional at Silverman and Associates. Mark can be reached at 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. Call, or if you'd rather, send a text to that number and arrange a time to come in and talk with Mark. You can also check out Mark's business by going to savingwithsilverman.com. savingwithsilverman.com. Time now for our request line segment of the show. Mark, we have some good questions that have come in today. First, Joel in the Foothills. Joel says, I'm tired of having 5 rental properties, so I'm going to sell at least 3 and maybe all 5. I'll miss the income, but I'm certainly not going to miss all the headaches. I have quite a bit of equity in these properties, so the question is to you, how should I invest this money after I sell them?
Well, Joel, that's a great question. I have clients that have rental properties. I've had clients that have had rental properties, so I can certainly relate to it. I've had a rental property myself, no longer, but I do understand where you're coming from. You know, one of the big things you want to think about before you do anything is the tax consequences. So hopefully you're working with a CPA or somebody like that can help you and make sure that you can try to minimize that and what your options are, because there are going to be probably taxes due if you get out of these properties. So make sure that whatever you do, you don't lock up your money so you have a problem down the road as far as paying those taxes. But, you know, the question becomes, what can you do? There's lots of things you can do. There's investments out there that can provide income, you know, whether it be stocks that pay dividends or bonds that pay interest or a combination of the two. It really comes down to how much income you're looking for and how much income you're going to need in relation to where you are in retirement, your ages, what you want to do in retirement, those sorts of things. So that's where a plan really comes in handy to understand, you know, how much money you're going to be spending or how much you might need, and then what investments are going to be suitable based on your risk tolerance. So lots of good questions that a great question that you asked, but there's still more questions that I would have before I'd make a recommendation as far as what you should do. But certainly happy to meet with you and kind of go through it and see where you lie and see if we can help you there and what kind of solutions you can come up with. But we've worked with people in a very similar situation, in fact, exact situation where they've sold properties and we needed to create more income, and we're able to help them do that.
Well, Joel, thank you very much for the question. And as Mark said, the best thing to do is to call and make an appointment to come in and have a conversation about your situation. And we'll give you that number again in just a few minutes here. Well, Mark, let's go to Saddlebrook now, where Rick has a question. And Rick says, I retired 2 years ago with more than $1 million in my IRA, which I thought at the time would be more than enough to give me the retirement lifestyle that I needed. And I'll probably be fine, but it makes me nervous every time I withdraw money from that account because I don't want to live too long and run out of money. Do you think I'm worrying too much?
Well, Rick, it's a great question, and I have a lot of clients in Saddlebrook. Great area. You know, again, it's going to come down to having a plan, because depending on your age and how much money you're spending and other assets that you have, you know, if you're drawing Social Security and if you have a pension, those sorts of things, maybe that helps a little bit. But if you're solely drawing on this IRA account and you're withdrawing too much, we could run projections to figure out if you're going to run out of money. If you're married, we need to run it out for both of your lives and those sorts of things. So that's really what it comes down to. But if you are getting nervous, again, this is why having a plan is so important, because we can take the guesswork or having to worry, because we'll run those numbers for you and show you exactly where you stand with a high level of predictability through our planning process, and either say, yes, you're fine, or no, you're not fine. Here's a safe number, a safe withdrawal rate that'll be fine, or maybe it takes some fine tuning of the investments to change that as well. So there's a couple of different things we can do, but you really need somebody to analyze that situation. And so you don't get in a position where you've taken your last distribution from that IRA, it's done, and you're still, alive and well. That's the problem.
There are a lot of folks out there right now, in addition to these three who have sent in questions, who would love to come in and have a conversation with you, Mark. What do you have to offer those folks who go ahead and reach out with that phone call?
Well, Ron, we've had some really great questions. And for anybody that's interested, if you go to our website, which is savingwithsilverman.com, and go to radio, and there's a number on there, you just click it, you could submit your question. And if you do, maybe you'll be the ones that you get to hear your question here on the air. So I want to thank those that took the opportunity and did that. But now it's my chance to ask you a question. And can you answer it honestly and objectively as possible? Aside from the happy hellos and how's the family, and aside from the occasional lunch or golf game, I get it. I'm as much friends with so many of my clients, they become true friends over the many years. But I think the question has to be asked, especially in light of the stakes. Is your current financial advisor truly adding value beyond a doubt? I'm going to repeat. Is your current financial advisor truly adding value? It's a valid question, as a friendship or just relationship allows you not to be in a position to ask those critical questions. Are you talking about taxes? Are you talking about Social Security and income and diversification and risk and insurance and estate planning and healthcare? Are you having those annual reviews, but hopefully it's more frequently than that? Is there detailed follow-up? Is there accountability? If all of that is happening, congratulations, because you've got a great relationship, and send your financial advisor a thank you. But if you're not having that, if you're not feeling the value, if you're not having these in-depth conversations, then you owe it to yourself and really to your family to have a conversation with someone else, because if you don't, you're the one that's going to suffer. You're the one that's going to pay the cost, and it'll cost you in more ways than you'll ever know. Let us prove to you how we can help your money go further in retirement. Let us show you with our financial physical. I believe you'll be surprised at what you'll learn, and this won't cost you anything. Give us a call or send us a text to 520-333-7601. 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601. Or check us out online at savingwithsilverman.com. That's savingwithsilverman.com. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. Call or text to that number and get in touch with Mark Silverman and the folks at Silverman and Associates. And when you come in for a conversation, you're going to be talking to Mark Silverman. He's not going to put you off on anybody else at all. Mark, of course, is the founder and the managing member at Silverman and Associates in Tucson. And again, that number is 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. Mark Silverman at Silverman and Associates can certainly help you, and hopefully you will reach out with a phone call and get in touch, and you guys can sit down and have a conversation very soon. It's a financial physical. It's just like going to a doctor. You get a physical. Mark can put your portfolio through that same process and find out how healthy you are, and you may be in better shape than you thought. 520-333-7601 is your number to call, and no obligation, no cost whatsoever for that initial visit there. Mark, it's been a pleasure being on the show with you today.
Ron, I'm always happy to be here. Good spending time with you, and I want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen. If we can be of help, please let us know, and stay safe out there.
Join us again next week at the same time for the next edition of Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman. Have a great week.
Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC is a registered investment advisor. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities product, service, or investment strategy. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified advisor, tax professional, or attorney before implementing any strategy or recommendation discussed herein.